I'm Pam Bidelman, and I'm an artist and an arts volunteer. I think 90% of life is tenacity. I really do, and persistence, and finding a way. Because I think artists will suffer spiritually and psychologically if they don't find a way to express. When I was a kid, I was an only child, and I spent a lot of time just drawing, and a lot of time. But I didn't have much confidence. So in high school, I took art, but I had sort of disinterested teachers, unfortunately. I went to really good high school, but when I went to college, I took a drawing course and to see if maybe I might be able to go forward in some way. I didn't have a clue how. And so I got through college and all that, but I dropped art. I wasn't doing any art at all, unless my mother demanded I send her something. I'd do something real quick. But I didn't identify as an artist at all.
Do you feel like your mother had some sort of belief in your skills?
Yes, but she didn't know what to do with that belief. But earlier she'd say, "You should be an artist." And I'm going, how do you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a clue. And I was just mad. Why can't I do that? That's what I want to do. That realization started welling up, and I hooked up with this group of artists in town who had this drawing group. And I couldn't draw a line. And of course I was very intimidated by them. And I must have been in my middle 40s about that. And I just kept trying and trying, and I wound up being able to draw, which was thrilling. This is where I started, up here many years ago. That's one of the first paintings I did, as it was one on the end. And I wish I could paint like that again. I think I would literally start out with a color field and let the images emerge and not get so cut. It was all about color, really, and the heart. And actually, that wound up being my grandmother and my mother, and I didn't intend that to happen, but it did. And what I hoped for in every painting was simplicity, good color, and...
what does it mean to have good color?
Lots of color.
Lots of it.
Because that's what's fun,
What made you stick with using the figure, especially the female figure, for all these years versus...
Well, for one reason, in the drawing group we did a lot of life drawing, mostly females and some males. And just within the last 5 years have I been able to get the hang of drawing a male face or the structure. It must be psychological.
I can't draw men.
I can't. Yeah, people say, "Why don't you paint men?" I say, "I can't." I can remember hearing that there were no historically great women artists. It made sense to me. We couldn't wear pants to work. I mean, it was just that era, and I was tenacious and kind of spunky, and as a kid, and a young woman. But I was very immature, and culturally immature, socially immature, and did not question the role definitions at that time. Well, I talked a little bit about how it was to be a woman for me as a young person and a younger woman, and your role was very prescribed, what you could wear. You bumped into limits at every turn, I responded to that by being kind of quiet and kind of wily. So then my early paintings particularly were about what's behind the facade.
Within your work, sometimes you get stuck with making work that you feel people expect from you?
Yes, absolutely. It's a real trap. So, getting positive feedback carries me through the rough parts, And also I tolerate criticism. I've read and heard other artists say that when you're working, you're in the moment. You know, you're ageless, you're without, you know, reference to what you might be concerned about otherwise and for that period of time. And the thing about aging is there are very difficult parts to it, but you still are who you are. And you are who you've always been. And with any luck, you've improved a bit. And you still love life.
I know when you said when you were younger you didn't necessarily define yourself as an artist. How would you kind of define yourself right now?
Oh, that is my life. I mean, that, yeah. And that's probably who I always was. I'm a painter, yeah.
I'm Jason Knudson, local artist, illustrator, musician, and I love Mankato. I think there's nothing more leveling or comforting to me than to be walking down a city street and seeing a post filled with posters. I love it so much. I'll sit and stare at one of those as much as I'll walk up to something framed in a gallery. I draw for bands, I draw for venues, I've done gig posters. I think that a poster getting used for the promotion of a concert, it's one of the most functional ways to display art. So when I moved here in '89, I met a group of kids in Fairmont that, you know, one of my friends, Zach Rivers, he was a guitar shredder. I'd go over to his place after school to listen to like Metallica. I had never ever been in a band. I'd never tried an instrument other than the French horn in 4th grade. No musical training, no musical talent whatsoever. He'd be jamming on guitar. I'd pull out some jugs or some pots and pans, and I'd hold this little beat, and we just had fun that way. But when he first asked me to be a singer in one of his bands, I didn't know what to do. I was scared stiff. There was a microphone hanging from the ceiling, and I kind of grabbed it, and I was like, "Rah!" But it actually worked out. I mean, we started our first band, and it was actually, thinking back on it, it was really fun and pretty good songs. But what counted was that there was a bunch of people that were trying new things all the time. And I feel like I still have that in my spirit, knowing how that works and how much fun it was. Like the first poster that I always go back to, and this was done probably in 1993 or 94, let's say. Just a silly drawing that I did, you know, like a dumb drawing I did like in class with just a pen, like a ballpoint pen. And back then, you know, I didn't know how to use a computer. Scanners cost like $3,000. So you just go to Kinko's and you just blow that up and then you just hand draw everything into it, you know. And photocopy art is still some of my favorite artwork. So when I think back to the old days, you know, this was like fine art to me. Yeah, as far as my process goes, what I do is just scribble, and I scribble on whatever's available to me, whether it be like a bill envelope or a restaurant receipt, that kind of stuff. I feel like when I'm not pressured or tethered, I come up with some funny stuff in my mind, at least. Like donuts crushing, like setting a city on fire and crushing a whole bunch of people, like going to a punk rock show. And like a donut.
I remember that show.
Yeah, it was fun. Super fun. And then stuff like this, you know, these creatures that I draw, I like to do these claws all the time. And I like mixing like mechanical thoughts with like organic thoughts. I don't think that I should be known for, you know, doing poster art. I think there should be multiple poster artists in town that are doing more event promotion. I love it if I see like a hand-drawn poster. I love it if I see like a really good attempt at a graphic design on a poster. I want to see more of it. I want the town to have a scene of poster artists. That's what I want.
Better take an aspirin before I blow my top. It's a valid question.